there is no religion in the world, whether it is Islam or Christianity or Judaism or Hinduism or Buddhism or Sikhism, that justifies or condones or injunction any kind of dishonor killing.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. It means everything to me. Before we get started, I just wanted to say to everybody that has been reaching out to me, showing me support, I appreciate you so much. When I tell you I appreciate you, I truly, truly mean it. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. Please leave me a comment. Please leave me a like. It would mean so much to me. You guys are just the best, and I thank you, thank you, thank you. Mona Hadari was forced by her family to marry Sajjad Hadari at just 12 years old. Even worse, Mona and Sajjad were cousins. After years of being in a controlling and abusive marriage, for the sake of her 3-year-old son, Mona decided to flee to Turkey. It is said that after Mona left, Sajjad would be mocked and insulted by locals, claiming that she had left with another man. Mona returned back home shortly after because it proved to be too difficult to survive in a foreign country alone. February 7th, 2022. When Mona arrived back home, she was ripped from her car by Sajjan and his brother. Sajjan butchered Mona and decided to walk down the streets of Iran with a knife in one hand and Mona's severed head in the other, all in the name of honor. Mona's father defended marrying off his 12-year-old daughter, saying that Sajjad was a good husband that provided her with the best life. The Women's Committee of the National Council of Resistance of Iran said that every time she expressed to her family that she wanted to leave the abuse, the family would force her to return home for the sake of their son. While Mona's father would say, quote, she was not forced to marry, and in fact, the husband provided her with the very best of life. It's true there was fighting between them, and sometimes there was violence, and she would return home, but she only stayed for 2 or 3 days, and then he would pick her up and life would return to normal. These fights between husband and wife are completely normal, and I don't think there was a problem as she did not ask for a divorce, end quote. Sajjad and his brother have been arrested, but it is unclear what type of punishment they will face. June 20th, 2016. 19-year-old Christian Anam Masi from Pakistan was bludgeoned to death by her brother while sleeping in her bed. The animosity between them began once Anam asked for permission to marry her boyfriend, who was from the same caste as Anam. Christian couples are expected to marry outside of each other's caste to prevent a false premise of incest. It didn't matter that Anam's boyfriend was not part of the immediate bloodline because he was from the same caste. The family would beg for Anam to call off the wedding, but when she refused, a fight between her and her 23-year-old brother ensued. Saqib would end up smashing Anam's skull with a wooden stick, killing her. After the murder, Anam's brother said from jail, quote, we were arguing. I didn't mean to kill her. I've been crying ever since. She was my sister, end quote. Anam's mother said, quote, I guess what happened, happened. I want my son to be released. He is my child after all, end quote. Anam's father said, quote, they started arguing. He hit her with the stick. He had no intention to kill her. Things just got out of hand. In the end, I guess it did become an issue of honor, end quote.
Was Anam, a Christian girl from northeastern Pakistan, just 19 years old. Last Friday, her life ended in a few violent and terrifying moments. Her 21-year-old brother, now in jail, admits he beat his sister with a wooden stick and crushed her skull. She wanted to marry. We didn't agree on this wedding, he says. We were arguing. She was my sister. I didn't mean to kill her. I've been crying ever since. Anam's father tells CNN the man she wanted to marry was a relative, which is why they disapproved. He turned his son into police, but says the killing was not intentional. No brother wants to kill his sister, he tells us. Things just got out of hand. He reacted in anger. In the end, I guess, it did become an issue of honor. Anam's mother's heart is broken. One child is dead, another in jail. I want my son to be released, she says. He is my child after all. A life taken, a family destroyed, another brutal murder committed in defense of a family's honor.
In May of 2020, Iranian Reza Ashrafi called his lawyer to tell him that his 14-year-old daughter was going to dishonor the family by running off with her 29-year-old boyfriend. He went on to ask his lawyer what type of punishment would he face if Romina did run away and he killed her. Reza's lawyer assured him that as the girl's guardian, he would not face capital punishment. At most, he would get 3 to 10 years in jail. A few days later, Romina did indeed run away with her boyfriend. It would only take police 5 days to catch up with her and bring her into custody. And even though Romina begged police not to release her to her father, telling them that she was petrified of him, they released Romina to Reza. June 2020, 37-year-old Reza walked into Romina's room while she was sleeping and decapitated her in the name of honor. At the age of 12, Gulmina was illegally married off by her family to a man that was 60 years old, instead of allowing her to go to school. If she dared complain about her life, her family would hit her and say, "You belong in your husband's house. That is your life." Gul even attempted to take her own life with poison on several occasions, but it never worked. Her husband would hit her every single day. She would cry and beg for him to stop, but he didn't care. After 5 years of daily abuse, Gul met and fell in love with a young Pakistan man. In November of 2012, Gul and her beau fled Pakistan and made their way into Afghanistan. Sadly, this newfound freedom would be very short-lived. Just days later, Gul's brother would track her down. Armed with an axe, he would hack Gul's boyfriend to death right in front of her. He would then turn the axe on Gul, striking her 15 times, cutting open her face, head, and body. Between the tremendous amount of blood loss and part of her brain hanging out from her skull, there was very little hope for survival. But Gul did survive. She survived, and she's currently in a women's shelter. Gul's brother fled back to Pakistan. Authorities have not caught up to him yet, but his family maintains that he didn't do this to his sister.
Slouched over in a chair, her sullen eyes staring at the ground, Gulmina is a teenager filled with shame. Pulling back her pretty headscarf, she reveals deep scars across her face. Her 17 years, a life of pain and suffering. My family married me off when I was 12 years old, she tells me. My husband was 60. Every day he would beat me. I would cry and ask him to stop, but he just kept on beating me. This small, fragile girl pleaded with her parents to help, but they refused. My family would hit me when I complained. They told me, "You belong in your husband's house. That is your life." After 5 years of abuse, Gulmina finally gathered the courage to leave her husband in Pakistan, running away with a young Afghan man to Jalalabad across the border 5 months ago. But according to strict Islamic customs, this is the ultimate crime. I knew my husband and family would be looking for me. I knew we were in danger. Gulmina is one of thousands of women living in shelters across Afghanistan, many of them victims of attempted honour killings. And while they try to start a new life, for this uneducated, frightened girl, it's going to be an enormous struggle. I want to kill myself, but they won't let me. When I look at the mirror, I put one hand to the side of my face. People tell me not to do that, but I'm so ashamed.
Qandeel Balak was born on March 1st, 1990 in Pakistan. She had 6 brothers and 2 sisters. Her parents were farmers. Balak first rose to fame when she auditioned for Pakistan Idol, a singing competition that's a spin-off of American Idol.
Don't worry. Modeling में हम तुम्हें देखेंगे यूं खड़ी होगी किसी दिन कभी यूं खड़ी होगी
अच्छा अब देखिए सारा काजल बहा दिया जाहिर है हाथ टूटते हैं तो दिल भी टूटता है
and then on social media with posts, pictures, and videos. This type of behavior is extremely unacceptable in Balak's largely conservative Pakistani community. International news media began comparing her to Kim Kardashian. By 2014, she began making regular appearances on Pakistani talk shows to discuss her songs and social media popularity. In June of 2016, she would meet a senior cleric at a hotel to learn more about her faith. They ended up being photographed, and the pictures would blow up social media. She would go on to talk shows to debate religious scholars on their Western and controversial lifestyle. She promised her social media following that she would do a striptease for them if Pakistan won against India in the 2016 2020 match. July 15th, 2016, at approximately 11:15 p.m., while Balak was fast asleep in her room at her parents' house, her brother would go into her room and strangle her to death. Her father would first report her death as a shooting, but an autopsy report would confirm that she died from asphyxiation. By the time her body was found, Balak had already been dead for 15 to 36 hours. Marks on her body would reveal that her nose and mouth were pinched closed to asphyxiate her. Balak's two brothers, Wasim and Aslam, were arrested on July 16th for the murder. Wasim immediately confessed to the murder, telling police, quote, "She was bringing disrespect to our family's honor, and I could not tolerate it any further. I killed her around 11:30 p.m. on Friday night when everyone else had gone to bed. My brother is not involved in the murder," end quote. Wasim was sentenced in September of 2019 to life in prison. But under Islamic law in Pakistan, sometimes murder victim's family is able to pardon a convicted killer. Balak's parents lobbied for Wasim to be acquitted. February 14th, 2022, Wasim's lawyer would confirm that the appeals court had acquitted him in the case on the grounds of a family settlement and a lack of evidence, saying, quote, "There is nothing left in the case. The convict will be released soon from prison," end quote.
Mohammed Wasim has admitted to killing his sister, controversial Pakistani social media star Qandil Baloch. He said he strangled her in their family home and that it was an honor killing.
I have no regrets.
Honor killing is a loophole in Pakistani law that allows family members to forgive the killers. They're usually carried out by relatives punishing victims, most of them women, for bringing shame on the community. Baloch, who called herself a modern-day feminist, was described as Pakistan's Kim Kardashian. She often posted provocative pictures and videos. While some say she was a disgrace to Pakistan's culture, her death has shocked the Muslim country, and many are calling for a law against honor killings.
Daski Azad was a 23-year-old trans woman from Iraq. Azad and her family became estranged after she decided to come out. Fearful for her safety, Azad left her family home 5 years ago, moved into an apartment by herself, and became a makeup artist at a local salon. Years after moving out, Daski would still get sporadic transphobic abuse from her brother and cousin. This bothered her so much that she even reached out to an Iraqi LGBTQ advocacy group to report the abuse by her relatives. January 29th, 2022. When Daski failed to arrive to a scheduled meeting, her friends knew something was wrong, as this was very out of character for her. Her body would be found 2 days later on Monday, January 31st, 2022, on the outskirts of Duak. She had been shot in the head and chest. When police found her, Daski's hands were tied together and she was in a shallow ditch. Her estranged brother, who spent the last 8 years living in Western Europe, traveled to Iran for the honor killing and has yet to be found. Ugh.
Horrific crime committed in some warped idea of honor. A 15-year-old girl murdered, her charred skeleton found in a village in northern Pakistan last week. Authorities say the girl, whose name was Ambreen, helped a female friend elope with her boyfriend. The couple escaped, but police say a local tribal council, or jirga, ordered Ambreen's execution. More than a dozen people are now under arrest, including the victim's mother, who investigators say knew about the order to kill her daughter, but did nothing to stop it or call police. Suspects under arrest for Ambreen's murder now face trial, but human rights advocates caution few of these kinds of cases go to court. For many, justice remains elusive.
In 1989, 19-year-old Sarbit was forced into an arranged marriage. She tried to stop the wedding from happening, but no one would listen to her because she was so young. But then she met her new sister-in-law, Surjit. She wasn't happy either because she just wanted to be her own person, but because she was wed, she had to be an upstanding wife and daughter-in-law. Years into their marriages, Surjit got a job as a customs officer. She was finally happy. She was going out, meeting people, and partying. Unbeknownst to her, though, members of the community were reporting back to her in-laws, and they began beating her for behaving in a way that they did not approve of. But then Surjit would make a fatal mistake of applying for a divorce. When this news got back to her in-laws, a family meeting was called. They decided that Surjit was getting out of control and dishonoring the family. Sarbit was so fearful for her sister-in-law that she actually called Crime Stoppers and wrote to her local police station, but nothing ever came of it. Surjit was taken to India in a jeep by a family friend for the day. While on her outing, 27-year-old Surjit was drugged, strangled, and then thrown in a river. She left behind 2 young children. When Sarbit saw her mother-in-law and asked her where Surjit was, she told her that no one would be bringing shame on the family anymore and that they had gotten rid of her. All of her belongings disappeared, and they told her children that she ran away. After this, whenever Sarbit spoke to her parents, one of her in-laws would have to be in the room with her. In 2004, everything became too much for Surjit to bear, and she ended up in the hospital. Her mother-in-law and husband came to visit her while she was there, but not to check in on her. No. They came to threaten her. When Surjit's parents came to see her the following day, she told them everything, and her dad went straight to police. Officers asked Surjit to make a statement and even offered her a place to stay, but she would refuse this offer because she didn't want to leave her children behind, so she went back home. After this, her mother-in-law came to visit her and to let her know that somebody had been speaking to police and that it couldn't be anybody else but her. Sarbit adamantly denied this, though. Her mother-in-law would often sleep over, but this night, she insisted on sleeping in the bed with Surjit. Surjit would stay up all night, convinced that that night would be her last, but thankfully it wasn't. November 6, 2005. Sarbit's mother-in-law told her that it was time for her to take a trip to India. You see where this is going, right? Thankfully, Sarbit got out with her youngest of 4 children. Her mother-in-law and brother-in-law were found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. Now Sarbit goes around telling her story, saying, "It's too late for Surjit, but it doesn't have to be too late for others."
Shot twice and thrown in a canal by her own family for marrying the man she loved. 18-year-old Saba Maqsood was attacked and shot by her father, uncle, brother and aunt, then tossed into a waterway in Pakistan, but somehow managed to survive. Left wounded in her cheek and her right hand, Saba is said to have married her neighbour 5 days ago for love, against the wishes of her family. They took her to a nearby district under false pretences, hinting at a reconciliation, but shot her twice and threw her into the canal after putting her in a sack, presuming she was dead.
After bringing me there, they shot me. I was hit in the cheek by the first shot and in the hand by the next one. They thought I died, but I was not dead. I was slightly conscious, but alive. They put me into a sack, tied up the mouth of the sack and threw it into the canal. They thought I was dead, but I was not.
Her relatives then fled the scene, and after minutes in the water, Saba regained consciousness and struggled to the bank where passers-by helped her.
Okay, guys, if you're still here with me, thank you so much. It means everything to me. It really does. Please let me know what you thought of this one. Did you like it? Have you heard about any of these girls before? Which story horrified you the most? Please let me know in the comments below. I'm really, really curious, actually. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. It really helps me out, especially since I'm so small. And until next time, thank you so much. I love you all.